Welcome back to Archbishop's Hour. You're listening to us at 98.9 FM in Albuquerque, 104.5 in Santa Fe, and 100.7 in Gallup. And today I'm thrilled to be speaking safely via phone with Father Michael Demkiewicz, Dominican priest, well known here in the Archdiocese and, in fact, currently serving as the Episcopal Vicar for Doctrine and Life for the Archdiocese of Santa Fe.
So, in the book I say, if there had to be an opposite of the tyranny of perfection, I think it would be the benevolence of imperfection. There's just something in terms of, accepting the fact that I am not perfect. And I think that's the real grace of the gospel, is to realize that God loves us not because we're perfect, but because we are who God has called us to be and to become.
In fact, the ultimate, the definition of the benevolence of imperfection, it would actually be the benevolence toward imperfection is our relationship with the divine. The divine loves us, God loves us, and he knows us as we are, imperfect beings. He doesn't say, I'll love you when you finally get over that bad habit and these sins, and then I'll love you then. He loves us now. That's what we're taught.
Exactly, and I think that's a hard thing for people, especially in our society, that photoshops things and creates things to be this idealized reality, when in fact our life as it is the reality, and that's very much what Thomas Aquinas holds. The reality is the thing itself. Now, that's where we're able to kind of accept our own sinfulness and our own brokenness, and why we need God's grace to help us on that journey. So perfection isn't a done deal, but perfection is about a process of becoming.
It's not an end result because it's not only unrealistic, it's an impossible end result.
Well, certainly in this life, but beatitude or perfection is in the life to come.
All right, I shouldn't laugh, but yes, in this life, perfection would be a kind of a bizarre goal, unless it's just perfecting as a process, as you already said. If we're moving towards something, as to do the best we can always and learn and grow, that's one thing. But as a an end in some finite pursuit, unlikely. However, isn't that what heaven is?
Well, I think, and I think the difficulty, our sin is really, or our failure is really to think that we've got it all under control. And the reality is God has created us, and our life is a journey of becoming. And it's at that point where we kind of start saying to ourselves, oh no, I've done it well enough. This is all I need to do. That we miss the point of what our entire journey is about. It's to find that blessedness and beatitude in the mystery of God.
Can you address a little bit this idea of connecting with true pleasure or finding true pleasure? The subtitle of your book, The Tyranny of Perfection, with what people are maybe experiencing these days in that, stay-at-home order. How does this time of the COVID-19 pandemic, how does that relate to this experience of finding true pleasure? It seems to me that there's been an opening towards what you're talking about, but I want to ask you if that's my imagination or not.
Well, I think what you see in so many people is because of this abnormal reality, that they're awakening to different ways of relating to one another and even discovering different things about themselves. I've had people say to me, I'm finding that I don't have enough quiet time for myself before, and that they're going to change after this is all over. They hope that they can still have quality time with their family, be able to kind of read books or to be able to reflect on things. So I do think that this is where the benevolence of the imperfection that we're dealing with is something that is a gift to us and a grace. Whereas if we're just lamenting the fact that, oh, this is terrible, it shouldn't be this way, everybody's doing it wrong, then you can kind of see where that tyranny is sort of alienating. Whereas the real pleasure is to be able to take delight in things as they are and to be open to how they can become.
Many people, I think, are finding, particularly with the difficulty of getting out and doing your shopping, how much of their time is spent in activities that always seemed so necessary. And when our access to those activities is limited, we're finding that they're not necessary to our well-being in our lives and our relationship with others. On the flip side of that, they might be enjoying this time at home and in a different kind of connection with people, even if it's just, FaceTime or special phone calls and things to connect with persons. On the flip side, things that were taken for granted, maybe like visiting an elderly relative in assisted living, and now not being able to go physically there, all of a sudden that's brought into a vivid relief of how important those kind of immediate connections are.
In a way, we've compartmentalized what is the true and the beautiful and the good in our life, and it's important to appreciate how they interrelate to one another. And I think that this time is a way in which we can begin to discover that. So, I just want to share one last little thing from the book, which is a nice little story about, this relationship. So if we isolate the truth and the beauty and the good, each fails to capture the interrelated meaning, not only of the scientist, the artist, or the theologian, but more so of the community, that social bond in which they all live. If science has no beauty or inspiration, if art has no truth or holiness, if religion has no inquiry or pleasure, they fail to serve their purpose. Albert Einstein, Michelangelo, and Augustine were arguing in heaven as to who was right. Mary happened upon them and asked why they were so excited. They told her what each one was arguing. Einstein said, energy best names God. Michelangelo said, color best names God. And Augustine said, spirit best names God. Frustrated, they turned to Mary. She looked at them and said one word, be, which echoed in each person's heart as they heard, become, behold, believe. So I think that's kind of where we're at in terms of, to not let perfection rob us of the interrelatedness of our lives, even in our brokenness.
That was so beautiful. Thank you. How can we how can we get a copy of this book? I'll remind folks, the name of it is The Tyranny of Perfection, Finding True Pleasure by Father Michael Demkevich. And this is the first of a trilogy on trust. But has it been released? How do we get it?
So this is the funny thing. It comes out in the middle of this pandemic, so it's hard for people to know about it. But it is available on Amazon. So luckily, Amazon will deliver even through pandemics. So just go to Amazon.com and you'll be able to find it.
And can we also find at Amazon your other writing? We Walk by Faith, a delightful book that came out, a couple of years ago, and A Soul-Centered Life, and others, as well as your fiction books. Are they all available in the same place?
They should be. If you look up Demkevich, Michael Demkevich, that'll probably pop up on the Amazon.com book selections.
All right. But ideally, it's already available to order and have brought to your doorstep, The Tyranny of Perfection, Finding True Pleasure A Trilogy on Trust by Michael Demkevich. Marvelous explorations on every level. How can we question this? You are a Dominican, and is that sort of part and parcel with your charism?
I think, to me, the journey for truth is about meaningfulness. And I think a lot of these questions that we're not willing to kind of dig into and think about, we miss out on the fuller meaning. You know, the meaningfulness of our life is what's really the key and critical thing.
And there you have it. Father Michael Demkevich, Dominican priest and a hometown boy. He's a son of Albuquerque, and he is also with the Archdiocese of Santa Fe. He serves as the Episcopal Vicar for Doctrine and Life. Episcopal meaning that he serves Archbishop Wester in that capacity. And I'm so delighted to be able to speak with you today. We'll remind folks again, The Tyranny of Perfection, Finding True Pleasure, a trilogy on trust. It's the first book of the trilogy by Father Michael Demkevich. You can find it at Amazon, order it, and probably see a list of the other books that Father Mike has written, all equally interesting. This new one, that first step in the trilogy, should be pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to it. By the way, do we need to read them in order? When can we expect the second and the third?
Well, I'm working on the second one now, so my hope is it'll be done in the fall or the spring, and that's on the want of wealth. And then the third one, my hope would be next year sometime, and that's on the bondage of power. So the three are really kind of, you could probably read them, you know, all together in sequence or one at a time as you choose.
I love your wordplay with the want of wealth. Want could mean a desire for, or it could mean the lack of something. And
Correct.
then, of course, the bondage of power suggests those who are enslaved by the thing that they think will give them power over others. Just fascinating. But get this one first, The Tyranny of Perfection, Father Michael Demkevich. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to Archbishop's Hour.